Hello, you're listening to Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, a weekly podcast designed to bring you snippets of encouragement to help you as you go about your day. I'm Jenny Guy, your host. Walking in sync with someone means paying attention to the other person. Obviously, you have to be going in the same direction if you're walking together. But there are other questions whose answers determine if you are really walking together. For example, are the two of you traveling at the same speed? Is the length of your stride compatible with your companions? God desires to walk with us. But for us to walk with Him, we need to pay attention to some basic requirements. We'll learn what those requirements are in today's episode. Let's get started. When I was a child, I learned about two fascinating men in the Old Testament, Enoch and his son Methuselah. Methuselah's claim to fame is that he lived the longest of any person, 969 years. Enoch's distinction comes from the fact that he didn't die because God took him. I was intrigued by the idea of someone escaping death because God took him. Why was Enoch so special that he merited such an extraordinary favor from God? The answer is found in Enoch's story, which is in the 5th chapter of Genesis, the 21st through 24th verses. It's very short, so I'll read it. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. There was my answer. Enoch walked faithfully with God. In this story of 55 words, Enoch's lifestyle of walking with God is mentioned twice. Evidently, the concept and the act of walking with God are very important. The idea of walking with God stayed with me as I grew into adulthood. What did that mean? What did it look like? Was walking with God the same as when I walked with my friends or loved ones? Life went on, and other subjects demanded my attention. From time to time, however, I would revisit my childhood question of what walking with God meant. That question definitely arose whenever I observed two people walking together whose steps weren't in sync. While they were traveling in the same direction, because their steps didn't match, the walkers appeared to be rushing or even sometimes scurrying. They definitely weren't strolling companionably. But I realized that may not have been the case at all. The mismatched walkers may have been used to their uneven pace. They could have even been quite comfortable with it. Two people can certainly walk together without their steps being in harmony, but their progress doesn't seem as easy or as fluid. In my opinion, in those situations, it appears that one of the walkers isn't trying to accommodate the other. Whether it's not by slowing down or shortening his step, or by not speeding up or lengthening her stride, one walker is not keeping up with the other, and therefore is implicitly demanding that the partner adjust. In my best scientific manner, I call that occurrence the theory of non-accommodation. My theory was often proved whenever I saw a slower partner hustling to keep pace with the faster one. And if I happened to hear a call to slow down, then I felt that my theory had been more than proved, and therefore deserved a paragraph in textbooks on human nature. On the other hand, I enjoy watching two people who match each other stride for stride, gait for gait, and step for step as they walk. Whether it's a parent and a child or two people deep in conversation, their measured, rhythmic stepping demonstrates walking together at its best. To me, that's a beautiful sight. As the years went by, I continued to wonder about Enoch's walk with God. Was there anything that could help me understand what it may have looked like? I found my answer in two prophets who lived centuries after Enoch. They both wrote about the practice of walking, each looking at a different angle. Here's the first one from the book of Amos in the Old Testament, chapter 3 and verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? To Amos, the idea of agreement was foremost in being able to walk with someone. That's a very practical approach. The two have to agree on their destination, where they are going. They have to agree on time, when they will go. They also have to agree on speed, how fast or how slowly they will walk. If they don't agree on all these points, then they won't be able to walk together successfully. The second prophet who wrote about walking is Micah. In the 6th chapter and the 8th verse of his book we read, He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. I think that walking humbly with God means keeping pace with Him, synchronizing our steps with His. In daily life, walking humbly with God means that we are obeying His instructions on how to live with others. Walking humbly with God also means that we are following His plans and guidance for our lives. We may think that we know where God is leading us. We may even have a good idea of what it is that He wants us to do when we get to where He is taking us. But if we're not careful, our knowledge may lead us to anticipate and walk ahead of God, or the opposite could occur just as well. If we are reluctant to obey God, then we may lag behind Him. When we combine both of the prophet's conditions for walking with someone, then we can understand what it is like for us to walk humbly with God. First, according to Amos, we have to agree with God. We have to agree on the destination He sets. We also have to agree to follow His timing for traveling to the destination. For example, He may say that we go today and not tomorrow, as we would prefer. Or He may say, let's stay here for a while, even though we may want to keep going. We also have to agree on the speed God sets for traveling. Sometimes that may mean moving faster than we feel comfortable doing. At other times, that may mean moving slower than we want to. Second, Micah seems to be saying that we have to keep up with God step for step. Whenever we try to walk ahead of God or behind Him, then we become like those mismatched walkers I described earlier. However, unlike being out of step as we walk with a friend or loved one, being out of step with God can have significant consequences for us. If we walk too far ahead of God, we may end up at a destination that He didn't intend for us. If we trail too far behind Him, then we may miss the goal He had planned for us. I started today's episode by wondering what Enoch's walk with God must have looked like. I think that the prophet's requirements for walking with someone describe what Enoch must have done. As I imagine Enoch walking with God, I see two figures. Obviously, one is Enoch, but all I can see of the other is just the hem of his robe gently moving with his footsteps. Enoch and his companion are strolling along, totally engrossed in talking with each other. As I continue to imagine their walk, I hear Enoch ask God what he should do to show love to his neighbors. And I hear God, in reply, tell Enoch to place his neighbor's welfare above his own. Enoch continues asking God questions as they walk, and God continues answering him. They stroll along the path that God has chosen, and as they walk, Enoch makes certain that his steps are in sync with God's. As I close today's episode, I want to encourage you to consider God as your companion as you walk through your day fulfilling your tasks and responsibilities. Are your steps in sync with His? Are you matching Him step for step? I hope you heard something today that has encouraged you and possibly given you something new to think about that will motivate or inspire you. If you would like a PDF copy of the show notes for this episode of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, visit my website at jguypublisher.com. New episodes are published each week on Wednesday. I hope you'll join me for another installment of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, be encouraged.